I'm Erica.
And I'm CJ.
And you're listening to the Her Podcast.
Today we're sitting down with Erin Crooks, mom of two, business owner, creative, and an obsessed photographer. Erin had an interesting start to photography when she dropped out of university and started her career path as a 22-year-old single mom, looking for a way to not only make income at home with a baby, but also to not give up on her own dreams and goals to work in the creative field. She has gone on to have a very successful career in the creative realm, launching courses, masterminds, teaching other creatives, things that she wished she had access to when she first started designing and selling presets. We chat with Erin about all the things today in this episode, what it was like starting a career as a single mom, the challenges she faced, and what drove her to keep going. You guys are going to want to take notes. Enjoy.
We're really excited you're here.
Yay!
It's so fun. Podcasting is always fun, but it's always really, really fun when a friend is on.
Yeah.
And I consider you a friend now. And
I feel the same, and I'm so excited because obviously you guys know I listen to every episode.
Yes, thank you.
When you asked me, I was like, oh my God.
Like, it's my time.
I couldn't believe it. So I'm very excited.
No, we're so pumped to have you here. There's like so many different directions I want to go today, and I want to ask you questions, but I think I just want to start by letting you share a bit of your story about like I'm really curious about what like Erin was like when she was little and like what she was like in high school.
Sure.
Yeah. And start there.
I personally loved high school a lot. Growing up, I was never into photography, but I was always a very creative, almost like the weird kid that I sat around like drawing. I had all these characters I made up for these comic books I would make, and I was destined to be a Disney animator. That was my thing. I was going to do that, or I was going to be an actress.
How
I was
cool.
a kid. That was my thing. I also, like growing up, just a total side thing here, but I have quite severe scoliosis, and so I was the kid that was in this giant plastic back brace, and I was so self-conscious, and so I would like hide myself away to like be creative and like make this new little world for myself. And so when I started kind of I had a big operation for my scoliosis when I was 13, and then after that I started to kind of come out of my shell a little bit, like literally this plastic shell came off of my body, and
was this like on the outside of your clothing or underneath?
You could wear it
either,
but so I would wear like boys' clothes over top and like hide myself because of this contraption I had to wear. And so yeah, kind of my other little world was being creative and like drawing and all the stuff I love to do. And so going into high school, I had my operation and I was healing, and I was like ready to like put myself out there, and just like I felt this new confidence from being kind of released from this little cage that my body was physically in. So I moved into high school, and I got into the drama program, and I just found this like new confidence in myself. And I'm trying to push my daughter when she's getting a little bit older now to go into drama, because I think it was like the greatest thing ever. I loved it so much. And so I got into acting, and I was like, I'm going to go to Vancouver, and then I'm going to go to Hollywood, and that's going to be my thing. So it didn't go very far. I did work at the Tunnels of Moose Jaw.
Yeah, you did. I love the Tunnels of Moose Jaw.
That was my high school
job. Is like acting out history?
Yeah. So I was in, if anyone...
For the people that don't.
For the people from Moose Jaw in Saskatchewan. It's pretty wide known across Canada, actually. We'd have so many people come through, but I would I played Miss Fanny, who was like in the Chicago Connection tour. So it's like the Al Capone story of like bootlegging and the prohibition.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
of course I'm like 15, 16, 17 playing this flapper girl that works in a bar and has no idea about
You're like, I don't even know what
history
this
stuff.
is.
I just would like go into this character in this script, and I loved it so much. And so that's basically...
I knew someone else that worked at the Tunnels of Moose Jaw. So that's like Meredith Sharesky.
Did she work there?
Yeah, she worked there. We're like lifelong friends with the Shareskis in Moose Jaw. Yeah, that's funny.
I don't know if we overlapped. There was this whole like drama crew.
Yes.
The drama kids all worked there.
Oh, so fun.
So that was so fun. So that was kind of the first time in my life that I started to put myself out there and do things out of my comfort zone, and things that were scary. And
I find it interesting that you were ready to put yourself out there, because I think, well, yeah, like, and actually, Kate, so there, I actually know what you're talking about with this brace, because we had a girl in our youth group who had the same thing.
Yeah.
And she would like come up to me and be like, can you hold my brace for me? And I was like, are you allowed to take this off? And she's like, I'm allowed to take it off for half an hour. And I was like, okay. I'd be like, get back here in half an hour. Because I always felt like very nervous about her. But I think the fact that you were ready, like instead of it going the opposite way where you almost like just got used to being like, we're gonna use the word turtle because that's what you said, right? You were like, no, I'm now ready to go and do this. So that's very, very cool. So at what point did you get your first camera?
So when I moved to Saskatoon, I went to the fine arts program, and I actually technically only did about 1.5 years of it, but I loved it so much. Like I learned a ton. I did a film photography class, which I really loved, and you got to learn how to use, how to develop your photos in the dark room there, and everything into that, and a little bit of like working with models and just kind of photographing. We'd go and photograph like chipped paint on walls, like it was like, old fences and wheat. So we did a lot of that, which was
very into this.
Yes, it was very farm aesthetics, grunge, lots of back alleys. But so that's what a lot of the class was doing. But I wasn't doing that. I was like grabbing my friends and dressing them up like they were in a magazine and doing these shoots with them. So it kind of started with that film class. I still like didn't think that was going to be the direction I was going to go with my life. And so after about 1.5 years of the fine arts program, I really loved it. All my friends were like engineers or in business or education and like working so hard. And I'm like coming back to my dorm with like a sculpture I made of utensils. And I'm like, I got 100%. Like I was so proud of myself, but they were like, oh my God, Erin's in arts and crafts. Yeah. And
that's what we called it. Arts. It was like you're in arts and crafts.
Yeah. So it was so much fun. Like I really loved it, but the only reason I decided to like take a break at the time and kind of drop out of my classes was that I was spending, obviously it's no matter if you're in arts and crafts or business, you're spending thousands of dollars to be at that school. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this in the end. Let's take a little break. Let's work a little bit. So it wasn't until I had just left university that my parents got me my first kind of starter DSLR camera.
And did they get this because like you asked, or they thought that this would be like a good idea for you? And also, what did they think of you leaving university?
Yeah, I'm really curious about that.
You know what? My parents are so great. My dad always he worked for the CP rail forever until he retired, from like 19 until he ended. Oh, wow. My mother has always been an entrepreneur, and she's always taught fitness and yoga, and she's had a studio, and she's always got these different businesses. So I came from this background of like really entrepreneurship. And so I was never pushed to go to university. So when I decided to drop out, it wasn't an issue with my parents. They're like, you know what, it's better for you to step aside for a moment and figure out what you really want to be doing with your life. And if that means taking a break from school and then going back, great. If you don't go back, but you find something you love, great. So I had a lot of support in that. And so when I told them I really was like loving this photography, and it was like a new avenue to be creative, they got me my first camera, and it kind of started from there as a little hobby and turned into more of what it is today.
And at this point, do you have your kid? How old are you at this point?
So I was 19 when I got my first camera. Okay. And so that's when I had dropped out of the university program. And so I got a part-time job waitressing to, tide myself over because the photography was clearly not a business. But at the same time, I'm still like taking my friends out to fields and abandoned houses, cool things like that. And, oh my gosh. And taking the photos of them. And I would edit them on these websites that I'm sure you guys were the same age. Did you ever use Picnic?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
You did it. Do you remember Picnic?
Yes.
And it was like the
Picnic?
Picnic. That's what it's called, right?
I thought you were saying picnic.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, is this like a sculpting for your face? I get it. I've caught up.
Picnic. It was like,
you could dump so many photos in it.
So many. The most horrendous filters. You could put like quotes from band. You could just do anything. They were
what a time to be alive.
What a time. So beautiful. So I would put these kind of filters on my photos and share them. And people on Facebook were like, wow,
the talent,
you
Erin.
have made it. And I was like, so the hype,
sepia,
I was getting, with these sepia photos. I couldn't believe it. And so I'm posting these photos on Facebook. Instagram was not even a thing yet. And then from there, like girls that were trying to get into modeling, reaching out to me and like, can I pay you like $25 to take my pictures? And I was like, oh, what?
big money.
You were like, someone wants to pay me to do this thing that I love.
Are you sure? Like you want to pay me for
Which
this?
we should talk about this, because I think
Yeah.
sometimes when people first come to you, you're like, your mind is blown, right? Because you're
Yeah.
not always necessarily
Yeah.
from the beginning viewing it through a business lens.
No, I wasn't at all. It was just for fun. And still at that time, it wasn't like I didn't drop out of school to pursue photography as a business. I really didn't know what I was going to do. So yeah, at that point, I am doing little photo shoots here and there. It's still just to be creative and to have fun and get to know a few people in Saskatoon, because I really didn't know anyone aside from my university friends. And so, yeah, like I said, at the time I was waitressing, and a few months down the line, I am pregnant, and I'm just turned 20. And so that obviously threw a bit of a wrench in my plans, thinking like, what am I going to do now? I'm super young. I don't have a business. I'm not in school. I don't have a degree.
But you were like, I'm going to have this baby. Like this is going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the time with your partner, did you think like, this is the person I'm going to be with? So like, yeah, even though we're pregnant very quickly, like it's okay. Like almost a bit of like rose colored lenses, or what was that like for you?
All of it is still just, it's quite a blur, to be honest. I feel like it's this alternate reality of my previous life.
I got a couple of those.
Yeah. To what
Can
it
we
is
use
now.
the word disassociation?
I think so. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like,
CJ always comes in with the technical. I'm like, I'm just over here. She's like, you're disassociating. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
yeah. No, that is exactly how I would say things were, because I didn't know anyone with kids. I was like, what am I going to do with this child? I was really excited.
Did you want to be a mom?
Not at that point, no. But like, I knew that I was going to be excited to have her. And so, yeah, like where do I even go with this? Like,
well, okay, so I want to quickly ask, because I've had 2 unplanned pregnancies.
Yeah.
So I'm always very interested to hear, like, when you take this test and you see you're pregnant, what is your reaction?
So if anyone's from Saskatoon, I had gone the night before to the LB5Q barbecue university party. I was like, you know what? Those 2 vodka sodas I had are hitting me a little harder than they normally would.
Yeah.
So yeah, found out I was pregnant. It was very scary to be so young. And like I said, I didn't know anyone with kids. I didn't know what I was doing in my life. At that time, like the relationship that I was in and my daughter's father, I just knew with like a few things going on in our lives that it wasn't where I knew I was going to be forever. I knew that we weren't each other's people, and but we were going to bring this child into the world.
So at this time, were you living at home? Were you living with friends?
We actually had a place together in the city because of, said baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a whole adjustment from going from, I did have roommates up until kind of that point in time. And so moving away from friends to doing something like that for the first time was a big adjustment.
So my question is I think that there's people who are listening, or people who can relate or know other people that have been in situations like this. What did it actually sort of look like for you to go from this place and be like, this is not my forever person. I have a baby. I'm not sure how old your daughter was at that time when you decided to make that decision.
Yeah.
Do you have money in your bank account?
Right.
You know what I mean? Are you going to your parents? Like, what can you walk us through what you feel comfortable with, but some of the practical details of like how, because I feel like that would be so heavy.
Yeah, it was a lot. So like we said, like I had nothing really to my name from the waitressing job and obviously from my photography at the time. And so throwing in a pregnancy and then staying home with a baby without maternity leave or EI or anything was really hard. And so in the first year of her life, I did start, I used it as my push to start my business. I had absolutely no idea what it took to build a business, but having this little one at home, I was like, you know what? I love this photography thing. And it looks like it could be the opportunity for me to make my own hours, stay home with my baby, and then of course do something with my life that I actually really love, even though it was so scary and I had no idea what that was actually going to look like. So over the course of the first year of her life, I started taking on photography clients. Again, like not making a ton, but I think she was about 3 weeks old the first time I took her on a shoot. She was 4 weeks old when I shot my very first ever wedding.
Wow.
Which is like a whole podcast on its own.
How are you getting clients though? Because I think, I mean, like, I want to go between business and life here, but I'm like, how do you even begin to get clients when you're like, okay, I have this newborn baby. I'm in a relationship that's probably not forever, but I'm going to like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're like at this place where you're maybe like sticking it out or like you're
trying to figure things out. Like
there we go.
It's like, it was such a blur and I didn't know if I had it in me to choose to take the route of being a single mom. And so I took that year to, really focus on like, you're a mom, like you understand, like all the things. You've both been young moms.
Yes.
So like you're learning everything on your own. And so
I personally can't imagine, because I was in a position when I got pregnant with Nate where I had like, I was going to finish schooling and then I was like, this sucks. So no.
Yeah.
Like without Nick financially, I would have been calling my parents and being like, I have to come move in with you. Like I have no prospects. I have nothing going for me right now.
Yeah.
She's a catch, everybody.
Help. Send in the cavalry.
Help. So I'm sitting here listening to you being like, that's intense, because I just remember being like, there is no way without Nick. I wouldn't have been in my parents' house. Probably still there.
Yeah. And like my family's was all in Moose Jaw.
Oh, right.
So like I didn't have a sibling in town at the time. It was really just me. And of course, like when you're 20 or just turned 21 and you have a baby, like your friends that are 21, they don't understand. So I lost a lot of friends that, didn't make our friendship a priority anymore. So that was really isolating, but I was like, photography makes me happy. It gives me a chance to like go out and see people. So I saved up what I could over that year, and it wasn't long into her first year that I was like, you know what, I think it's going to be really hard for both of us and the baby, but this is what I think we both need, is to separate. And so
can I ask, was pass if you want, without going into too much detail, was your partner at the time feeling similar? Like, was this like an amicable, like,
I want to say
like it was okay.
I want to say yes.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. No, that's fine. If you don't want to end, I'm just curious on like that conversation about like, hey.
And again, like it's so far in the past that little details like that are kind of fuzzy for me, but fair. I do remember like getting the strength to say, you know what, I'm going to get my own apartment. I've saved up this, I found this place. And so my daughter was less than a year and a half when I got my apartment with her. That was a whole experience, I found.
Tell us more.
I got a 1-bedroom studio apartment. It was actually a boiler room that the apartment had turned into a studio apartment, which I didn't quite know until
you got into it.
Oh, yeah. So picture like a 1-bedroom with like a tiny jail size window.
Oh no!
So where was it in the city?
Oh gosh, off Cumberland, Main Street.
Oh yeah,
Main Street.
Yeah. Okay. I can picture.
Yeah. So like, despite it being so small and dark, I was like so happy. Yeah. I felt like this like relief, and like my shoulders could relax. And it was just this little space for my daughter and I. And at the time, like, of course, we had 2 co-parents. So it was a lot of daily back and forth for a couple of years. And then we'd start doing like a few more days until it got to a week on, week off, which is what we do now. But at that time, so now I'm like, okay, now I'm fully on my own. My rent is entirely up to me. Buying groceries entirely up to me. Everything. And so I went through a lot of days of being like, how am I going to get clients to afford milk? And so it was really hard and really scary. But again, it was still that what is even the word? Like I had to make
it was like
something work.
Not life or death, but kind of, right?
Yeah.
Like you have a drive because you're like, I have a daughter here and I have to feed her. So like I have to like hustle. I have to do something. I have to try something.
Did you ever debate like going back to your relationship?
No.
No, you were like, this is it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's intense, because I feel like I would have been like, hey,
Yeah.
my bad. Can we reverse?
Oopsie.
Which is
This is harder than I thought.
Oh, wait, what? No, that's
It's
amazing.
not what I expected. No, it was, so it was really hard. But when I think back to it now, it's definitely going through all of that I did and like having to rely entirely on myself, pushed me to, I grew up a lot faster, I think, than a lot of the people that I knew. And I had to rely on myself. I had to develop a work ethic that at the time meant being with my daughter all day and working on my business and my goals and editing and all of things all night long.
Yeah.
And that's one of the blessings of being such a young mom is you don't need to sleep like you do now.
Yeah.
I think I'd sleep for about an hour and a half and wake up and do it all again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, everyone, for all my beauty enthusiasts, makeup newbies, and anyone in between, I need to share something exciting with you. Award-winning makeup artist Kelsey Ray has an incredible new offering that will help you streamline your skincare and makeup routine. Personalized makeup lists. Kelsey is my personal go-to makeup artist when I need my makeup done, and I know selecting the right skincare and makeup products can be overwhelming more often than not. Navigating a sea of products and cryptic labels can leave you feeling lost in your pursuit of that flawless, radiant glow. Don't worry, Kelsey has got you covered. I've actually had my fair share of sending her DMs while I'm in a store, showing her products and asking what she thinks of them. Begin your journey to luminous skin and a makeup collection tailored exclusively for you with a meticulously curated line of makeup products perfectly aligning with your wants and needs. Now here's how it works. You will fit out an in-depth form, but don't worry, it's fun, that covers everything from your skin type, tone, to your preferences for makeup that you already wear. Kelsey will then review your information and head to the drawing board, putting together the absolute best recommendations for you based on the information you shared. You'll receive a fully customized form inclusive of personalized recommended products, tips and tricks, and application advice from Kelsey. You'll be well on your way to feeling confident with your skincare and makeup products. You know we have a special offer for our Her crew. You can use code HER10 to save 10% off your personalized makeup list with Kelsey. Find and follow along with Kelsey on Instagram at KelseyRay_MUA and head to www.KelseyRayMakeup to book your personalized makeup list now. You can also find the link to book in our show notes. And remember to use that code HER10 to save. I'm curious on once you got into the photography industry, you talked a little bit, we watched your video you sent us to like get to know you a little bit, and you talk a little bit about the term you used was like not secrecy, but competitive
And secretive.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, there was just like a lot of secrets.
And the word CJ and I, of course, would use is like gatekeeping, like tons of gatekeeping. Totally. And I'm wondering if you can just share that experience for you and what was that like to try to break through that, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs right now, I mean, CJ and I in our business, our whole page, we're like, we don't gatekeep, we'll tell you anything, like you can call us and we'll be like, yeah, this is what I would do. And I think that's how you are too. And like from consuming your content, that's what I see. But I think this is still a fairly new concept for a lot of people. The idea of giving away your information, it goes against all like old school marketing and old school business, right? Which is like hold everything super close. Yes.
Well, and I think it happens even in spaces outside of entrepreneurship, like I think that you see it in, corporate environments or other environments where the management or the people up top, right, are like keeping, gatekeeping things because they're like, we want to be at the top and we need people,
even from their employees.
Yes.
Like it's not even just businesses.
So
it's like
this goes to all avenues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely experienced that. Like the industry and the community for photographers and creatives at that time, I don't feel like it existed at all. And I think Instagram just became a thing. So that was not at all like a business type platform. So at the time I was sharing my work on Instagram and like trying to join photography groups on Instagram on Facebook. Yeah. On Facebook, I'm trying to join photography groups. And then outside of just like the whole online world of photographers in the community, locally, I knew a couple photographers that were like a fair amount older than I, and I remember like reaching out to some, like trying to ask questions and immediately being shut down, that they would never possibly share this or that about business or gear, just like asking a simple question about like, what does like this kind of lens produce? Like things like that weren't even wanting to be shared at all. So it was very impossible to find resources locally. And then of course it just not being a thing online. So
how did you overcome that feeling? Because again, I'm like listening to your story and I'm putting myself in it, and I know me, and I would have been like, I'm discouraged.
Yeah,
I'm out. I'm out. I'm moving back in. I'm out. Sugar daddy over here. SOS. Like that's what I would.
The white flag.
I know it's not how I am now. Yeah, the white flag.
I surrender.
Can I have a tea? Take a tea over here. So I'm curious how you overcame that and kept pushing.
Yeah. So because I was kind of like, oh, well, everyone's put up this wall. I guess we're not talking to each other. We're not going to be friends. It's this competition. Like, I was like, you know what? That's so not fun. Like, I just didn't get it. So the way that I learned personally, because I'm entirely self-taught, was just trial and error and trying the things, failing a lot.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
No, that is incredible because when we got a camera, I tried to self-taught for 5 seconds and then I called the photographer I knew and was like, SOS, help me out.
Yeah.
Which now, of course, I was learning the camera 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The courses and people being open. Now, you're paying people, but the abundance of people even just willing to be like, yeah, of course. It was very different, obviously, than what you experienced.
Yeah, it's so different now. So I think going through the start of my business and not having anyone open to sharing resources or helping really guided me into where I am in my business now. Like, of course, at the time, I didn't think I would ever get into education for photographers or wanting to build a community and sharing the way that I do now in my business. But it definitely guided me to where I am today. With wanting to make an impact on the people's lives, and like especially with younger creatives that were maybe in my position, becoming a mom or solo parenting or not having enough community or help around them. I really want to be like a voice to tell them like, you can do these things if you the biggest thing is just stepping out of your comfort zone and having faith in yourself.
So I'm interested. That's beautiful. I'm not going to glaze over that. That's very beautiful, Erin. Thank you. I'm very interested in how you set up, and like I know you have like a big systems in your business, but as you're saying this, I'm like, okay, so you're like pushing really hard. You like have this baby.
Yeah.
You're like, you get married.
Yeah.
Maybe go to that
in this equation. Yeah. And you like start building a new life again, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really curious how you continued to build a new life while building a business, and what systems you put in place for your life to make that work for you while balancing being a mom. Because I think we have a lot of listeners who are mom. I'm a mom, right? And I mean, we always say like balance is BS, right? It's always ebb and flow, but I'm really curious about what you put in place to find the success that you have, because I would say you're successul.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
I echo that. I just had something in my mouth.
I'm brown nosing because I want Erin to do photos for me.
I would love to. I saw your comment yesterday.
I know, right?
I was like, we're going to plan it. Yeah. So like you said, I also don't believe that can be a full fluid balance with parenting and entrepreneurship. It is kind of fitting things in where and when you can, but I found with myself definitely developing more of a routine and trying to stick to that with consistency helps a lot. So yeah, I am married now. We've been married for 6 years. And the little fun fact going all the way back is that my husband, Paul, we both met at Provincial Drama Festival in Regina when we were both in high school. So that goes back to my little acting days, which like bless that little period of my life, because that's where I did meet my person. And so he's the original reason I moved to Saskatoon. We were dating, we did our thing. And then shortly before my first baby, Mackenzie, I broke up with Paul because he loved me too much and I wasn't ready to be a serious adult.
Do you want to know what's hilarious?
Only to leave and have a baby.
Okay, so side note.
The irony.
I know. Now we're back together.
Seriously. No, but this is funny. This is Nick and I, because Nick, like, I remember at one point I was like, you love me a lot and I'm just like not there. And that's when we broke up in university, because I was like, I need a 5.
Yeah.
Like, give me a couple. And then it was like 2 years later we reconnected. So I think this is actually more common to have someone be like, it's interesting when you say love, it was too much love. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Because most people would be like, what?
I know.
So you guys end up getting back together.
Yeah.
How old was Mackenzie?
Like a couple of years old.
And how was his reaction to that? To be like, okay.
Like, I think I need to give that guy more credit for being, 23 years old and still had enough feelings for me after I broke his heart and I left and I had a baby, and he was ready to take on that role and care about both of us. So
shout out to Paul.
True love.
What a gem.
This. Oh my gosh.
We got back together. And obviously that was a huge help in me being able to manage parenting and the whole business thing. And we got married 6 years ago. And so since then, we've had another son. He's 5, little Bowie. But when it comes to, parenting and entrepreneurship, it's a whole thing. In the last few years, I've learned that I was always scared of delegating in my business. So I was scared of the financial aspect of delegating, and then also like that giving part of your business to someone else to manage. So in the last couple of years, the things I've done for myself to kind of delegate was as simple as like, I didn't even have daycare before my little ones were in school, because I was like, well, why would I pay for someone when I'm at home? I thought it was selfish,
a hard one,
right?
That's a really hard one. Until they're screaming on you and climbing all over you, and you're like, I'm not getting anything done.
Got absolutely nothing done. And so it took a long time to realize that it wasn't good for him to be like begging for my attention when he could be playing with other kids. And it wasn't good for me and my business. Like in the past, I've had different studios in downtown, but the last few years I've developed like a home studio. And so I remember like shooting in my home studio before Bo would go to daycare, and luckily this one time it was a friend of mine over for photos, and he comes, I can hear him rummage around in the pantry in our kitchen, and he comes in, he's got a box of granola bars from Costco size box, and he starts throwing the granola bars at me to get my attention. And so I was like, so it was like literally that afternoon I was like, I'm calling up a daycare, because this kid, he's a sweet little baby angel, but he was doing anything to have mom's attention, because I'm giving my attention to someone else in our home.
Yes.
And so
my kids just stand at the glass doors and they stare at me as I have a Zoom call.
Yes.
That's probably the piece.
Yeah. It's just like,
seeing you give your attention to someone else while they're in the home.
It's so hard on you as a mom. It's hard on the kids. And so, like I said, it was that day. I was like, okay, we're getting a daycare. So that was my first area of like delegation. Someone else can help me with my kids. It's going to be better for all of us.
Which actually, as you're saying that, I think that's a really interesting piece, because I think as entrepreneurs, when we think of, and business owners and whatever you want to call yourself, I think when I think of delegating in my business, immediately I'm like, well, I have to hire an employee. And instead it is really looking at like, because I think that what you're speaking to is the piece of delegating is really scary. It's really handing over. How do I hand something over? And I think if we were actually to step back and look at our lives and go, where are we already delegating? Like if I step back and go, I already delegate to daycare, that's actually a step I've already taken. So the next step of delegation might not be as scary because you've actually done it already. Right. And that might be an easier one, but it is still bringing someone in that you rely on
absolutely
to help you with your business, because I know for a fact I can't run my business if I don't have my daycare provider.
It's one of the best things that I've done, because I can be a better and more present mom when the kids are home from daycare and school. And then obviously I can put more love and attention and like there's the things I need into my business and myself when I get that time. And so that was a big one. And then the second one was, it's almost been exactly a year since I hired my assistant. And so that was another big one. I was like, oh my gosh, can I hand over some of this creative work? Can I hand over things like my admin and a lot of my emails with clients to this assistant? And she has gone above and beyond and changed my life and helped me so much in my business. So that was a big one to kind of work in, like a little bit of that balance of entrepreneurship and parenthood would be delegating.
So you said before that you like found routine.
Yeah.
What does a routine look like for you?
It changes all the time.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is, and it's funny because like it's something I try and teach in like the mastermind that I lead for photographers, in whatever their business and their life looks like. But I think for me, it's looking at what my week is going to be and I mark off first what's like the biggest priorities for me. So the kids' activities and things are going to be like they're a big priority to me. Like I want them.
So are you like setting up your calendar and like filling, like I want to get into it because I feel like this is like a piece I'm really working on. I like go in now.
Yep.
And I've even gotten to a point where I'm starting to mark in the calendar for Nick, even just like when I'm in the city for a day. So he knows, or this, I'm like, I'm in the studio.
Yeah.
Right. Because if not, he's telling me we're having mechanics come on Thursday when we're podcasting. And I'm like, that's going to have to change. We got to like figure out a system here.
It's going to be a no.
That's going to be a no. He's like, they're just drilling into the wall. I'm like, that's a hard no there, babe. So my question is, what does it look like when you're planning your like week?
Yeah. So one thing that I started doing a couple years ago to organize my life a little bit as a photographer was I actually, and so in January of the year, I bring out a paper calendar and then I do it on the digital one too, but
paper is better. It just
I love both. Like I have to have both
I know.
at all times. And so I actually sit and I figure out like how many shoots do I, well, first of all, like need to take on in a month for my revenue goals and all of that, but also like how many do I have the actual capacity to put
And
my
are those
attention
numbers
into?
sometimes different?
Absolutely. Like it changes like I shoot a ton of weddings. And so I know that throughout the summertime, I've got a lot of weddings that need a lot of attention. So then I'll take on a little bit less during the weekdays. And so I like to go ahead a year in advance and like mark out things that are already booked. I go on ahead and I mark out like every single week that I know I'm going to want off, every family event, holidays, all of that. I mark it off because it's really easy. And I've done this so many years in the past of like severely overbooking myself where I'm like, okay, I don't have a weekend for 6 months.
Yeah.
Every single evening I'm away from my kids. I'm missing supper time. I'm missing their activities or just like going for a bike ride with them, like little things like that. I don't want to miss that in my own life because I'm out. Obviously I love my clients so much and spending my time with them. But so I started prioritizing going literally a year in advance and marking out all of these things. So I knew when I had because I don't have a boss telling me you get these are holidays, you get these days off, these evenings off. So I was like, I'm going to do this for myself. And so I technically have a lot of things marked off a year in advance. I mark off the days that I will be taking on like evening sessions, the weekends I want to be shooting if it's not a wedding. I kind of set that up in advance so that so like now, for example, in November, it's a little bit slower for shooting. It's cold out now. I don't like going outside. So I avoid that. So I do a lot of studio work and things like that in the winter, but I also prioritize the winter to be my more education based part of my business. So I do mentoring and my mastermind and the course that I run. And so, I sit a week. So like on Sunday, I'll sit and I'll mark off in my calendar, like when I'm making content.
Do you do any of this with Paul?
The calendar stuff?
Yeah. Like I'm listening to you be like, I book like when I want to work the evenings. And I know for me, I find in my marriage, I have to like bring it to the table and be like, so I like have these things. Like, I just want to confirm like everything's good and whatever. And I'm curious, are you doing that? Or are you like, is that something you two do together?
You know what? We don't, but it's something he's definitely been like, okay, we need to mesh these calendars together because he's busy and I'm busy. And so that is probably one area I need to work on is more of a family calendar. I got the kid stuff in mind, but I don't keep track of his as well.
I'm like, I just need you to mark. Yeah. Like if you're away, even just so I know. Yeah. Right. I'm like, if we can just get in a place where we like know where each other is. Yeah. That would be good. Which is obviously something we're working on right now. So you said do you mark in? We were just listening to a podcast. We love Lauren and Michael from Skinny Confidential, but we like love them. Too. Goals. Come on our podcast, please. Actual goals. Next Erin Crooks, of course. Thanks. Dream over here.
The biggest compliment.
So Lauren talks about booking in her stuff, which is I'm bad at. I'm real bad at booking in my things. Yeah. I book in my kids. I book in work. For sure. And then afterwards I'm like, oh, look, there's 5 minutes.
What's left for me?
I'll have a sip of water. Sounds good.
Yeah. So I highly recommend.
So you're doing that. Okay. What does that look like? Like, what are you booking in for yourself?
Well, so that's the hard thing too, is I'm saying these things, but as a mom and busy with my business, that's where all my time goes. So for myself, like I guess I'm not necessarily booking in things like I don't, like I said, I don't like to go outside. So I do I do yoga and things at home. Yeah. We have the best thing Paul and I bought for our new house is our infrared sauna.
I love
and so book in I don't book it in, but like in the evenings, like doing yoga at home to unwind once the kids are down and then go and like sit in the sauna. It's like
very dreamy.
My paradise. I love it so much. But no, I definitely could be a lot better at scheduling and things for myself, because like we put the kids first. We put all of their needs and everyone else's needs and the husband's needs and the business first. So
what is it like when you get to a place where you can develop? I'm really curious on how you say no to people and to jobs, because I think that's really hard. And I think we all go through a phase, and CJ and I openly talk about, like, I look back on our business and I'm like, there's definitely things that we were doing that we're like, yeah, we're going to charge this. And then someone comes to us with like a lower budget and we're like, but the money would be nice. Yeah. So I'm curious on how you learn to say no in your business.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Right.
I'm definitely a people pleaser. And so that's still like constantly a challenge. But I think, to be very honest, I haven't had to say no to things in quite a while. And I feel like a lot of that comes from that I am very intentional with who I'm marketing to. And so I feel like when I put a lot of effort into that and I really put myself into my business, I'm getting inquiries and connections from people that are getting to know me online. So they kind of know what to expect and who they want to work with, because this is like something I teach too, is that anyone that knows how to use a camera can take a really beautiful photo, and there's thousands, even in our city, I think there's like thousands of photographers.
So many.
There's so many. And like, so you can see a beautiful photo, but when it comes to photography, it's something that your clients are investing a good chunk of their money. But they're not just getting a product, they're actually spending a lot of time with you. And so you want your clients to trust you and feel really comfortable with you and understand what the process is going to be like and know like what their final product is going to look like, and just you want them to be really excited. So I feel like as a photographer, I teach a lot to put yourself into your business, and that way you're going to attract people that are aligned to you, and that it's going to make that whole client and business and service provider experience a lot more seamless.
If you are on the market to buy or sell a home, or maybe both, and want to make the process as stress-free and smooth as possible, then I have the realtor for you. Lacey Cozette is an award-winning Saskatoon realtor who prides herself in being your one-stop shop for both buying and selling. And her passion for her work just shines through when you meet her. Lacey has over 12 years experience in the real estate industry, a 98% list to sale ratio, and she prioritizes an extensive and personalized marketing strategy for each of her clients, because we all know that the best strategy is more important than ever now. Along with her husband and partner, Kyle Berneski, Lacey is licensed in residential, commercial, and farm, so she literally has you covered no matter what real estate area you need. And because she's built such solid connections in the industry, she can dial up the best lawyers, mortgage brokers, appraisers, and contractors for you too. Lacey has also given us an exclusive discount code for her community. You can use the code LACY5 to save $500 off one real estate transaction. You guys, that's huge. So if you want a driven, hardworking, and connected agent who'll go above and beyond for you, this is a no-brainer, guys. Get in touch with Lacey. You'll find her at Realty Executive Saskatoon or on socials at Lacey Cozette. That's at LACEYCOSSETTE, and online at lacycozette.com. And remember to mention the code LACY5 to save $500 on one real estate transaction. We're linking all her info in the show notes for you.
And so when it comes to saying no, though, it's definitely a hard thing. Like, I know if I, for example, get an inquiry for something that I just do not advertise and I do not shoot, like boudoir or something like that, I will give suggestions to who I think they should go to that's better in that niche. And then like another big thing for me is like I said, I shoot a lot of weddings. And so I don't say no to a ton, but if I do feel like it's just not a mesh for like how they're wanting their day captured, and I just know that it's not like their wedding sounds amazing, all these things, but I just know that I'm not that person for them in the way they want it documented. I'm just very open about that, because you're only going to do your best work if you feel aligned to that project and you feel like they're going to trust the way that you're capturing it. So,
well, you really don't then have a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Or maybe you did and you've worked through that.
Yeah.
Because I think most people would have someone come and they're like, well,
Absolutely.
it's not quite my vision and my style, but like, I think it's the money piece that most people come back to and they're like, but I need the money.
for sure. Yeah. This scarcity mindset is definitely like a huge thing for business owners
Yes.
and creatives to work through. Cause I know like in the past, like, you know, and it still happens now, but like, you know, I get a message for like, well, would you do it for X amount? And I'm like, well, no. I used to say yes to everything because of that. And like, I guess that's also going through like my past and being a single mom, I said yes to everything. And so that was kind of ingrained in me. So it's taken work to get over that.
Well, and how do you
sure.
transition from saying yes to everything to having those boundaries? Because I think that we can look at you and be like, okay, you said yes to everything. And now you're in this beautiful space where you're like, I know who my clients are. And like, you know, I'm really aligned. But what is that middle area really look like? Like, what did you do for yourself to work through that?
Yeah.
And maybe it was a messy period, right?
For sure messy. Like, I would say the biggest things that I've done for myself and like bless this community is like getting into podcasts, listening to lots of personal development, reading personal development, getting into groups. I put myself into a business mastermind so I could be a student again and listen to other business owners in all different areas and what they're going through and like relate to them and learn a lot about how they say no to things. How do they find a bit more balance in their careers and then start to like, you know, pull in what made the most sense and apply that to my business. So definitely like putting the focus on myself for the first time.
And doing the work.
Well, and I think we often, we kind of like pigeonhole ourselves in so many different areas. And even I think in terms of education, like I think sometimes we're like, I mean, I speak for myself. It's like, I'm a social media manager. So I should take a masterclass from a social media manager.
Right.
And it's like, you might actually find way more value learning from someone in a completely different industry.
Totally.
Because we're all actually dealing with very similar problems for the most part, right?
Yeah.
I want to be conscious of the time here. And okay, so I want to quickly go back to something that you said. So you were talking about your yoga and your infrared sauna. I'm curious what other things Erin does to self-care.
Oh my gosh.
If it's nothing, it's okay. Because I'm in a
question.
phase of like
What do I
dumping bath salts into my bath and like, that's it. I'm like, this is as far as my self-care goes right now.
Honestly, it's at that point kind of right now. I got a puppy. I love him.
What's his name again?
Georgie.
He's so cute.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time with my puppy. I really honestly just really love hanging out with my kids. And then, so yeah, I don't know if my self-care doesn't often look like running baths and doing things like that, but I really love planning exciting things in the future, look forward to. So whether that's like travel for work or travel personally, that is something that really like lights me up to have something to look forward to. So I don't know if that qualifies as self-care,
Absolutely.
but I love a
you
good
get to define
adventure.
it.
So yeah.
I think self-care, self-love, it will always look different for everybody. And there are some people who are like, the idea of sitting in a bath would drive me nuts. Like that would not be enjoyable. You're working on another cool like project where you're going somewhere. You just said planning, right? Are you guys going back to Tulum? No.
Actually this Sunday we're going to Mexico.
Yes.
I have a destination wedding next week.
Right. But aren't you also doing I'm butchering this right now.
Oh, a content
Yes,
retreat.
yes.
So I've got two girlfriends that are both in like the personal development and education coaching space when it comes to content creators and entrepreneurs. And so we hosted all these things. I totally forgot.
So you're good. So I was like, come on, Erin, come on, let's go.
What is it? I know sometimes I need like checklist of all the things I do. But no, we host these content retreats for women entrepreneurs of like all kinds to get together and then create content and learn about their branding and their personal brand and how to make their content and how to show up online. And so we've hosted one in Tulum in just this year in April, which was incredible. We had 10 women come to Tulum for 4 days to learn and create, and they get their personal branding shoot with me, and they go home with so much education and like this fire in them. And
it looked amazing.
It was incredible. So we're looking forward to doing a few of these tropical ones a year, but we are doing one. I don't know when this comes out, but we're doing one in January in Canada, and that's all.
Great.
So we're announcing it next week, though.
Oh my gosh, I want to
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
I could probably
you'll have
swing
to come.
Canada.
Yeah,
I could swing
it's
Canada.
not too far away for us. So
I was like, yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, so we've got another one coming up, so that's exciting.
And is it the same 3 of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I watched that with the most absolute FOMO I've ever experienced in my life. I was like, frick. I was like, that looks so good. I'm very interested in one last thing about those, because I think this is a thing I've been really experiencing with a lot of people that we've been coaching or just speaking with, is I think we have, and myself as well, we have this idea of going really big, really quick. And what you've actually spoken to is, you said just 10 women. And I'm going to put words in your mouth. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's the idea, is that you're keeping it intentional.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you can just like kind of speak to why you wanted to do that, or unless you're like, no, we really want 1,000 women to come. I'm like very curious.
Yeah, like I think long term we would love to have bigger groups and all of that, but I think we wanted to be more intentional with the amount of women coming so that they could get our time and attention, and we could help them in like the level that we want to. And so I apply that same idea to my course that I offer for photographers, and which has a mastermind component. And so I do keep it a small group because I could keep those doors open and let in as many people as possible. But when I get on these Zoom calls with the photographers in my group, they're at so many different levels. Like some of them, we have one this time that she just bought her camera, to other ones that have been running their business for a couple of years, but it feels messy and they're stressed out all the time and they just don't know what to do next to take their business to the next level. They don't know how to show up as a personal brand in their business. And so I keep this group really small so that I can be intentional. I have time to actually get to know them instead of having to spread out that time through, 20, 30 people at once. I want it to be small and feel very inclusive, and actually give them the guidance and the mentoring that they need, and that I really know that I can help them with.
I love it. Yeah. I think that's a piece that a lot of people are struggling with there's just such a money mentality, right? And I was thinking about that this morning, that people just want more and they want more. And I'm not knocking that. I would always love to grow my business more. But sometimes I've been using the term like slow burn for a long time, or for a while. And it's like this idea that like you can build it up and get it really good, and then maybe open those doors a bit bigger, right?
Absolutely. Because every time I'm going to run this, I'm going to personally learn even more, and how I want to serve my students better, and how I can help them grow in their business better. And so I want to keep it small. And like you said, like I don't want to rush into it. Yeah.
And I think you just said a really key piece. In any kind of industry like this, you said serve your students. And I think that's another piece that hopefully is a takeaway for anyone who's planning any kind. And we're in this like, the amount of course reels I'm seeing right now, it's just a lot, right? Yeah. I think it's a good reminder that when we put out a product like that or a service, it's serving others. And yes, of course we get that return, but how do we create something that really impacts the people that we are teaching or educating? And so I just love that. I'm wondering if we can wrap up this conversation. We have a question that we ask everybody, which is if you could leave us with your favorite piece of advice that you've ever been given, or one that you like to give others.
Sure. I think this could apply to really anyone, but any creative really, is that you have to give yourself permission. If you have a goal, no one is coming along to be like hands on your shoulder and be like, okay, now is your time. You can go and do the things. And so I always tell people, and it was like, I remind myself all the time, is that I am giving myself permission to show up as the business owner I want to do, to create the art that I want to create, to make this product, like all of the things. Like I need to be confident enough to give myself permission. And so that's what I tell a lot of my students and anyone that reaches out to me. I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll give you the permission. I'll tell you to do it, but you have to give that to yourself because no one else is coming along to do it for you.
Well, and how impactful is that, right? I think that that's so often we don't give ourselves the permission, and that's a great reminder to be like, you can actually have it come from you.
Yeah, because you can stay stuck for so long in that like imposter syndrome and fear of what others are going to think. But if you can kind of push that aside and give yourself permission to go after the things you want, then
yes. So if you're
that's
listening,
when it's going to happen.
and you need to give yourself permission, do
Yeah.
it. That could be a takeaway from this podcast. Erin, where can everyone find you? Give us all your socials and links and things, and it'll be in the show notes too.
Sure. Best would be on Instagram. That's where I live. It's Erin Crooks Photo. All my other links for my digital products and courses and presets and booking with me, of course, as your photographer, is all in my bio there.
Yes, and she has amazing presets. And if you're a new creator, I have them. Well, I have a set of them. She has some really beautiful ones. I will just personally give a little recommendation to go check those out.
Girl.
Because
They're so nice.
They're so nice, and they're really, you're very intentional with them, and they're easy to use,
Awesome.
which I
I'm
think
glad you
is
like them.
key for people who are stepping into this space. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys. It was so fun.
Yay! Thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of the Her Podcast. If you want to follow along with us, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at its.her.podcast. We can't wait to see you there.